the Gambler's Ruin Project, where the odds get cracked. English Premier League, round 37.
Welcome back to the Gambler's Ruin Project, powered by SmartBet AI.
Just a reminder, this show is for informational purposes only.
AI is one tool. Always bet responsibly.
All right, let's head to London where Brentford host Fulham in what could be a beautifully boring match.
If you like midfield attrition and low expected goals, this one's practically a gourmet meal.
Statistically seasoned and tactically bland. My favourite recipe.
Kateryna, what's the SmartBet AI giving us here?
Right, so we ran the full ensemble. Poisson, Random Forest, XG Boost, and the MLP. Then we stacked them up. Final probabilities. Brentford win, 36.7%. Draw, 33%. Fulham win, 30.2%.
So basically, shrug emoji.
Exactly. It's tight across the board. Monte Carlo simulations confirm that. It's a distribution with no dominant winner.
And most likely scorelines?
Brace yourselves for excitement. 0-0 draw at 16.4%. 1-0 Brentford at 15.7%. A 1-1 is close behind at 13.78%, and 0-1 is at 13.63%.
That's not just low scoring. That's tactical Sudoku on grass.
So, what are the actual football reasons this feels so undercooked?
Not ideal when your build-up depends on Janelt breaking lines. Brentford are without Janelt, De Silva and Carvalho. They're down to ball winners and backup creators. Look at the midfield lineups.
They're likely to sit back and hope for a set piece or a counter. No Muniz, no Harrison Reed. You lose ball retention and forward connection. And Fulham's not much better.
And with the weather being a sunny 72 degrees Fahrenheit, dry pitch, little wind, there's no chaos factor to force mistakes. This could honestly be a 65-minute staring contest until someone blinks.
So ideal weather for tactical paralysis.
Exactly. This one might come down to which keeper can stay awake the longest.
Now, from a modelling perspective, Poisson gives us 0.98 goals for Brentford and 0.82 for Fulham. So just under 2 goals combined.
So the model's quietly whispering, maybe skip BTTs?
Yep, BTTS model flags low probability. There's stronger edge in under 2.5 goals, which aligns with both the data and the injuries.
And stylistically, these two love to cancel each other out. Fulham's away average XG is under 1. Brentford at home, without their creators. You're basically praying for a deflected corner.
Beautiful football this is not, but we're here for value, not vibes.
Using the 2% rule, you should allocate about 1% of your bankroll on the draw. If you're playing the value, 1% on under 2.5 goals.
Modest allocations, but that's by design. You don't go heavy on knife-edge coin flips like this.
Would you touch the correct score market?
If you must, 0-0 or 1-0 Brentford are the most backed outcomes, but treat them like lottery tickets. Low stake, high variance.
Translation sprinkle, don't pour.
All right, wrap it up for us, Kat.
Sure, this one screams draw or a 1-goal margin either way. Low ceiling, low volatility, value sits on under 2.5 and the draw line.
And that's the London chess match. On to Merseyside next. All right, before we dive into the model outputs, let's take a quick detour. Dominic, I know you've got a fun Brentford fact loaded up.
Absolutely. Let's rewind to Griffin Park, Brentford's old home until 2020. It was the only stadium in England that had a pub on all 4 corners. Literal corner kicks and corner pints. You don't get more West London than that.
Football analytics and brewery adjacency. Finally, a crossover episode.
Exactly. But here's the kicker. Griffin Park was also a kind of spiritual birthplace for Brentford's rise. Under owner Matthew Benham, who made his fortune in statistical modelling, yes, seriously, they went from League One to the Premier League using a Moneyball-style approach.
A club built on XG before it was trendy. I love that.
And now they've moved to the Tech Community Stadium, but the philosophy hasn't changed. Small club, smart strategy, massive chip on the shoulder. Brentford punch above their weight, not with money, but with math.
Which is why we like them. They speak our language.
All right, corner pubs, statistical revolutions, and now back to expected goals. All right, from London we head north to Liverpool, Everton versus Southampton. And Kateryna, our models say, slight lean toward the blue half of Merseyside?
Yep. The Monte Carlo simulations give Everton a 46.2% chance to win, draw 30.8%, and Southampton only 23.1%.
So not a slam dunk, but Everton are the favourites, mostly by default.
Let's call it cautious optimism. The most likely scorelines: 1-0 Everton at 18%, 0-0 at 15.5%, 1-1 around 12.5%.
So we're in low scoring, keep your fingernails territory again?
Basically, if you're expecting fireworks, this might be a sparkler.
All right, Dom, walk us through what this looks like on the pitch.
First off, Everton are without James Tarkowski, their defensive leader and aerial rock. That's a problem, especially on set pieces. He's played every match this season, until now.
And he's their highest blocking defender. The backline could look a little frail. Massive gap in aerial duels, 1 per 90.
Their fullback Juan Larios is out, and they're already playing patched-together lineups at the back. Exactly. That said, Southampton's not exactly coming in guns blazing.
So is this two leaky defences? Or just two teams afraid to take risks?
More like two teams trying to win ugly. You've got Everton clinging to form at home and Southampton playing survival football.
And with the weather looking sunny, light breeze, dry pitch, there's nothing externally forcing mistakes.
Classic Premier League mid-table energy.
From a numbers standpoint, the Poisson model gives us 1.12 goals for Everton and 0.71 for Southampton.
So about 1-0 Everton. And that lines up with the most probable scoreline from Monte Carlo too.
And here's the key: low volatility. Bootstrapped simulations show a tight range 0 to 1 goal is dominant for both sides. Not much room for high-scoring chaos.
That makes sense. Neither of these teams cracked the top 10 for XG created. This could be one of those first goal wins kind of matches.
Exactly, and it might not even come before half-time.
All right, let's bring it home. What are we betting, Kat?
Leans are Everton to win, moneyline, but cautiously. And if you're hunting long odds, exact score 1-0 has edge based on all models.
I like that 1-0 look. If Everton score, they'll drop into a defensive shell, and without Tarkowski, they'll do it nervously.
Risk allocation-wise, no more than 2% of your bankroll total across both bets. Maybe 1.5% on the win and 0.5% on the correct score.
Spread the risk, aim for precision, not volume.
And don't get cute with BTTS or overmarkets in this one. This game could fall asleep faster than a 5 p.m. cup of chamomile.
Unless Pickford throws in a clanger, which is always on the table.
All right, that wraps up our Merseyside moment. A nervy 90 ahead, but hey, there's value in the grind. All right, let's bring it all together. 2 matches, not a lot of fireworks, but plenty of angles if you know where to look.
This week's theme: caution, structure, and praying for set pieces.
And maybe a snoozer or two, but snoozers can pay if you bet smart.
So first up, Brentford versus Fulham. Here's what we're locking in.
Draw, currently around 3.10 odds, is our favourite based on ensemble probabilities and lack of attacking edge.
And we double down on under 2.5 goals. 2 short-handed midfields, little creativity, and a game that might spend more time in the centre circle than the final third.
And bankroll-wise?
Think small, controlled exposure. 1% of bankroll on draw, 1% on under 2.5. A low variance setup.
All right, now to Merseyside. Everton versus Southampton.
Yeah, this one's got that classic scrappy 1-0 home win feel. Ugly, but effective.
Exactly. The model leans Everton to win, 46% probability, and the Poisson mean score aligns perfectly at 1.12 goals.
So the plays?
Everton to win, moneyline, moderate value. And for the long shot crowd, consider exact score 1-0 at boosted odds.
Just don't overextend. This isn't a hammer the line scenario.
Right, 2% total allocation max here. Maybe 1.5% on the win and 0.5% on the 1-0 flyer.
2 tight matches, no chaos bets, and some surgical bankroll discipline. Just how we like it.
Hey, boring bets pay rent.
And good data beats good vibes, most of the time.
All right, that wraps up week 33. The models give us a statistical edge, but remember, variance always plays a role.
Exactly. A clean simulation doesn't mean a clean match. Keep your bets small, trust your process, and let the numbers guide, not chase.
And as always, stick to the 2% rule. Bankroll management beats bravado every single week. If you're still in the game, you're winning.
Thanks for tuning in to the Gambler's Ruin project powered by SmartBet AI. Hit subscribe, drop us a review and let us know your predictions in the comments.
We'll be back next week. More matches, more modelling, and probably another 0-0 to quietly root for.
Just how I like it.
Until then, bet smart, bet small, and trust the process.
Thanks for tuning into this episode of the Gambler's Ruin Project. Remember, our content is for informational purposes only, and all predictions are AI generated. Gambling can be addictive, so please bet responsibly. If you or someone you know needs help with gambling addiction, here are resources that can provide support. North America. Contact the National Problem. Gambling Helpline at 1-800-52-24700, available 24/7 for confidential help. UK. Reach out to BeGambleAware at 080-8802-0133 or visit begambleaware.org for information and support. Bet smart, bet safe, and as always, remember to keep things fun and balanced. We'll see you next week for more insights. Thanks for joining us, and don't forget to hit subscribe for more AI-driven insights and pro betting tips each week. See you next time. Disclaimer: this content is for informational and entertainment purposes only. The predictions and insights provided by the Gambler's Ruin Project, powered by SmartBet AI technology, are generated using statistical models and historical data. These predictions do not guarantee outcomes and should not be considered financial or betting advice. Gambling can be addictive. Please bet responsibly and only wager what you can afford to lose. If you or someone you know is struggling with gambling addiction, seek help from professional support services. Legal notice. This content does not constitute an offer to participate in gambling. The Gambler's Ruin Project does not operate as a bookmaker or betting service and does not encourage gambling. All users are responsible for complying with local laws and regulations regarding sports betting and gambling-related content in their respective jurisdictions. The Gambler's Ruin Project, where the odds get cracked.